Now, remember the point I said earlier? Don't memorize an essay that's too long. 40 minutes might be the time that you're given in paper 2 to write each essay, but 40 minutes is too long for your draft. The rule of thumb that I use is that if it's 40 minutes, I want about 8 minutes, because that's 20% of the time. I want 20% of the time, I want 8 minutes to spare. So I want to make sure that I can write my draft out at home. You can do it in exam conditions, but basically I would just print out the draft and then I'm going to look at it and write it out. You don't have to have memorized it at this point. This is when you just think you've got the draft that you want. Before you start memorizing, you print it out and you just read off the page and write it out as fast as you can. If you can't write that in around 32 minutes, maybe you're pushing it to 34, 35 minutes for module A, or if you're a really slow writer. The reason why if you're a really slow writer, you might go up to 35 minutes is because you're just not going to be able to write enough to get the marks anyway. So you might have to budge there. But if you're a moderate to fast-paced writer, then what I would recommend is aiming for 32 minutes. Module A, you might go up to 34 minutes. See, you get 40 minutes for each of those, but for Module A and Module B for those essays, I'm aiming for 34 minutes as a maximum for Module A. Why is that one a little bit longer? Because as you all probably know, it's a comparative study. You're looking at 2 texts. Unless you're doing standard, if you're doing English standard, you probably still want to hit the 32-minute mark. If you're doing 2 texts in the essay, so if you're doing English advanced, then you want to do 34 minutes as a maximum, and then 32 minutes for Module B. And if you look back at the common mod essay, again, even though you get 45 minutes, I'm treating it as if I get 40 minutes, which I'll explain in a second, and I still go for 32 there. So you can see you've almost got 13 minutes to spare on that one, but I'm treating the common module essay in terms of time the same as the other modules. Why am I doing that? If I get 45 minutes for paper 1, for the essay in paper 1, why am I treating it as though I get 40 minutes? Exactly. It's the same amount of marks. So these are the little tricks that I really want you to note, that even though the paper 1 gives you 45 minutes, don't be fooled. Treat it as though you're given 40 minutes and therefore prepare your draft to a 32-minute kind of standard, right? So what can you do in 32 minutes? It should be the same rule because it's still 20 marks, basically the same criteria, it's the same expectations. But then you're asking, but what about those 5 extra minutes? Shouldn't I use that for the essay? No, you use it as leeway for section 1 because section 1 is all unseen. It's very likely that you might need a couple of extra minutes at the end. So I would treat the common mod essay as being 40 minutes and the section 1 as being 50 minutes, plus you get the 10 minutes reading time to spend on section 1. Okay, now in terms of drafting, editing, okay, well, the next few weeks, and especially I should just say the next 2 weeks, because you've got holidays for the next 2 weeks, what I would be focusing on, this is the key focus, is finishing all of your drafts, actually changing them up. Someone had the question about, oh, I did a multimodal. I now need to make that a normal essay. How do you do that? Well, you need to grab all the material from your multimodal and then just put it into your standard essay framework. You can do either 3 body paragraphs or 4 body paragraphs for that one. So for anyone doing English Advanced Module A, because there are 2 texts, it's possible to do 4 paragraphs where the first paragraph looks at the first text, the second paragraph looks at the next text, and then you go back to the first text, then back to the second text, and you kind of split your essay up into 2 ideas. So you have 2 ideas, and you talk about each text with respect to that idea, and you can compare them that way. You can also do a 3-body paragraph one where you talk about both texts in each paragraph. That's much more difficult. But if you are up to that and you prefer that way of thinking about it, where you have 3 ideas and you talk about each text within and you compare them within, that's also a great structure to use. So does that make sense? You just need to go back, create an essay scaffold, introduction, 3 or 4 body paragraphs, a conclusion, figure out how you're going to order your ideas, first of all. So guys, if you're going to revisit your essay drafts, you always start with the topic sentences to figure out how your ideas move forward. Once you figure that out, figure out all the techniques and the concepts that are applicable to your essay. Find a practice question, of course. Always have practice question. Use a nice generic one, as we said, if possible. And then figure out where you want to slot in all of that evidence that you talked about in your multimodal. And then you might need to go and get some more evidence as well.